Culture. What is it? It is what defines one group of people from another group of people. It is what decides what is acceptable, popular, and moral in one society. It is what makes us who we are and makes us proud of our country. It is what makes a country unique. Or is it?
Let's go back, way back, to when Americanization all began in Japan, post-World War II. The USA was starting to have an influence in the rapidly changing country of Japan, partially by their new invention that became a worldwide hit, television. By 1953, Dentsu Co. and the NHK television company, were making huge Americanization-themed marketing campaigns aimed towards the Japanese. In no time, Japan became known for having more American products and supplies than the USA itself. One company that has had a huge influence in Japan is Disney. Disney is a company that worldwide has been famous and known to be probably one of the biggest movie industry companies in the world. One of the clear effects of Disney in Japan was when I saw the Japanese students going around was their Mickey Mouse and Minnie t-shirts, their High School Musical t-shirts, their Disney music and pop stars they loved, and so much more. Also, a few years ago, after a traditional rite of passage, a very important time of year when Japanese young adults celebrate being 20, the Telegraph, a newspaper, claimed that Japanese youth, instead of deciding to celebrate a more traditional way of their entry into adulthood, decided to go to Disneyland Tokyo and dance with Mickey and Minnie mascots, which they ridiculed. On the other side of the non-Disney influence, I observed their clothing as well and saw that they loved Sesame Street's Peanuts, comic strips such as Snoopy, and they also wore t-shirts that had English on it. Most students also love pop music and love listening to pop artists such as Justin Bieber and Lady Gaga. However, even the students that did not like Justin Bieber and Lady Gaga all knew of them and definitely saw their effect in their country. To say that the American culture has no influence on current Japanese culture and youth would definitely be a lie.
The largest markets out there that was made from the USA is the Star Wars sci-fi franchise. All the video games about Star Wars, all the fan fiction about Star Wars, all the toys that are made to mock of Star Wars weapons, or even Darth Vader's mask, or even his complete outfit. That just shows you how far we've gone with one movie series. Now think about Japan. In Japan, it is even larger over there. There are full stormtrooper outfits, which people will dance in Japan. People love to get the photos with. There are all kinds of toys and things, and not to even mention, even their utensils are influenced by Star Wars.
That's right, utensils. Chop sabers. Chopsticks are painted a blue or green or a different color with little black handles on the end in order to look like mini lightsabers. One of the largest influences of the USA on Japan is definitely their food. When I asked many of the Japanese students I worked with over summer, what is your favorite food? Half would come back saying something they love from Japan, while the other half would end up saying American food or Canadian food, some being pizza, spaghetti, hamburgers, hot dogs, and the list goes on. However, American culture has more of an influence on Japan rather than just on their technology or on their trends in fashion. Rather, the USA has an influence on Japan with their ideas in general.
Now, I do not just mean American ideas. When I say American ideas, I mean the American lifestyle. And what is the American lifestyle? It is something that is commonly changing. Family, the definition of family is changing. And one source blames the Americans for influencing the Japanese on this. Well, I don't necessarily disagree with that. The Japanese government, it's up to them what is technically acceptable. And who knows? The worldwide, other than just the USA, are now starting to accept more and more.
But what about Japanese culture? Do they have an influence at all on the USA? Or can we conclude right now that the American culture is too strong to be rivaled? Before closing this topic, I think it is important we look at the other side and look at the ways that the Japanese culture has influenced North America. I still remember when manga became huge in Canada. I remember the rave among kids about Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Ohs, Blades, and so much more. I still remember when an older friend let my brother borrow a manga book so he could try drawing it. When my sister and I saw it, we consumed the book and started about it and taking the book out of the library very often. My brother never kept up drawing manga, partially because he's not the most artistic, but my sister and I kept this passion alive and we started drawing it frequently in my youth. I have never really been into reading manga or anime, but I have still loved drawing it despite that fact. I know many friends who have had manga influence them and who all love to draw manga, despite not being Japanese themselves. Another part of the Japanese culture that has influenced the USA is J-pop, other words, Japanese popular music. Japanese popular music has been huge in the USA. However, J-pop has its roots going as far back from the USA. That's right. American rock and roll inspired J-pop to be born. From bands such as the Beatles, while British, which it was huge in the USA and influenced J-pop. Not just that, but also famous singers and crooners such as Elvis Presley. Recently, an American TV show mocked how Americans embrace Japanese culture too much. A little skit called J-Pop American Fun Time Now. It expressed how some American college students got a very, very narrow view of Japanese culture just because they're big fans of some Japanese things such as some manga and anime, cartoons, and other things such as J-pop music. What do you think of when you think of the future? Do you think of a computer screen that can, if you lift it, goes into two? Or the idea of waving and moving and doing stuff and a computer reading your emotions or following what you're doing? Or do you think of the idea of a heated toilet? My friend, the future is already here. These are things that happened in Japan even a few years ago, and some currently happening that are now just coming to us or will come to us. Japan, for many years, has been ahead in technology, despite the USA being the original influencer on technology. For his assignment, I took a poll of many people asking them how they feel about the American and Japanese cultures and which one they thought was stronger. My demographics were mainly youth and adults, more specifically, young adults. While the large majority of the people polled in my ISU were from Canada, one of them actually is from South America, and two of them are actually from Japan themselves, which I shall mention some of their answers in some of these questions. Unfortunately, for the time's sake of this ISU presentation, I will not be able to go through all the questions I asked in the poll. I shall just add the main highlights of the poll. Question number 1 was, have you ever heard much about Japan or its culture? Shockingly, 55% said that they knew a little bit about the Japanese cultures, but were no experts. 27% said no, they didn't really know anything about the Japanese culture. 9% said they knew lots, and another 9% gave me another answer. Another question was, do you think the Japanese culture has influenced Canada and North America? 70% said yes, they thought it was clear by animation, anime, manga, electronics, such as Nintendo and Toyota, etc., have all influenced our culture. Another 30% said that they weren't sure and need to look into it. None of them, surprisingly, said no to this answer. As an opposite question I asked, do you think the American or North American culture has had an influence on Japanese culture? 62% of the people polled said yes. 38% said they didn't know because they didn't live in Japan. No one said no. And the two Japanese students, a part of the 62%, also said yes, they felt their country was influenced by USA. For the final question, the largest question I asked, which is more powerful, the Japanese culture or the American culture? By not much, 37% said the American culture is larger. No one said the Japanese culture is larger. 36%, just losing by 1%, said they are both equally strong cultures. and 27% came back saying they had no idea. The two Japanese students I polled both had different answers. The one came back saying the American culture is stronger, while the other one came back saying she did not know. My friend that lives in South America came back also saying that the American culture is stronger, seeing she said it's stronger here than even in Canada. So what does one conclude from all this information? Which culture is more strong? While the Japanese culture is extremely powerful, I have to conclude that the American culture, currently at least, is the more powerful culture. This is for three reasons. One, the USA is one of the largest countries in the world and larger than Japan. Two, the USA speaks English, the business language. And three, the USA is a democracy and tries to help out other baby countries that haven't been democracies very long to get along with their new country. And while Japan is a very old country, they haven't necessarily been democracy for nearly as long as the USA has. So overall, while currently the USA definitely is the leading culture, who knows where the future will lead? It might be Japan, it might be the USA, it may be somewhere else. I'm Chopin and Bach.